everyone, welcome to my talk. And today we'll be going to talk about like how University have been working to grow an ecosystem of Ethereum's future builders. So a quick background of myself: my name is Sunarto. I'm currently a rising engineer studying electrical engineering and computer science at UC Berkeley. I also help do blockchain security audits at Trail of Bits, and currently, and most importantly, I am also an organizer at ET University. In a previous life, I'm a software engineering intern at Uniswap, and I've also helped build Darkfist, a decentralized MMORTS game on the Ethereum blockchain. So what is ETH University, right? So so essentially we are an ecosystem focused in nurturing a pipeline of blockchain young talents. So if that doesn't make sense, we essentially have three main goals. The first one is to foster interest and onboard university age talents. Secondly, we want to help students cross the chasm from being a learner to actually becoming a contributor. And last but not least, we want to build community resources and toolings to make sure that we can boost blockchain education proliferation wherever around the globe that we might not be able to reach. So why do we think there's a urgency right now for something like ETH University to exist? So most importantly, I think there's a strong public perception right now that the space has crossed an inflection point over the course of this year, to the point where bringing students from traditionally strong university CS and math backgrounds is now possible in a way that it wasn't before. The TLDR is that we think the blockchain technology is currently in the world's zeitgeist. We have a lot of attention coming from various stakeholders. We have a lot of attention coming from students. We have a lot of attention coming from also teachers and lecturers in various universities, and that attention is a precious resource that we can utilize to make sure that we capture some of the talents that currently exist in the world and pipe that into the blockchain ecosystem and make sure that we're able to retain those talents and foster that interest into something that bears fruit in the long term. And this is why one of our flagship program, Eat Summer, exists, which have the main purpose of fostering interest and onboarding university age talents, as we've mentioned before. So Eat Summer is essentially a virtual learning month for technical undergraduates who are interested in learning and building on Ethereum. During the span of the program, you'll experiment with crypto systems and ship a project of your choice with the help of mentors from the Ethereum ecosystem. So this program essentially is a month-long program where every week students spend around 15 to 20 hours learning and building on crypto. And most of these are actually unstructured and asynchronous learning time, where you'll be able to dive deep into the space and allocate time independently. So we don't have a specific curriculum. It's make your own learning experience. So if you want to spend more than 20 hours, then you're free to do that. What we do is provide you with the correct resources. We provide you with the mentors, and you it's essentially an all-you-can-eat program. So if you want to join as many of the workshops as possible, it's totally up to you. But the main point here is for you to actually craft your own learning experience. If something draws your interest, we want to make sure that we have provided the resources so that you can dive deep into your field of interest. So the program is 1 month long, divided into two sections. The first section, which is the first 2 weeks, is gonna be the learning period, where students are actually just focused and heads down and learning new facets of the blockchain ecosystem. And the last 2 weeks is gonna be focused in building a project of their choice. So they're gonna choose a project at the beginning of the 2 weeks, and then they will run it through a mentor, and then they'll be diving deep into building the project until the end of the program. And then the mentors are there to just make sure that they are don't have any issues and make sure that they're on the right track. So throughout the program, we have weekly workshops, we have weekly office hours, and we have weekly community events. So we have various mentors come over. So for instance, we have Austin Griffith doing development workshops and office hours, and we also have Gupsheep working on zero knowledge application mentoring. We also have David Mon doing decentralized finance mentoring, and so on and so forth. We also bring in various guest speakers. So for instance, we have some team from from Optimism come in and talk about optimistic rollup, and we also have people like Georges who from Paradigm to talk about things such as reorgs on the blockchain, for instance. So at the end of every week, we have either a lightning talk or the demo days. So the lightning talk is really served as a way for the students to really showcase what they've learned during the week, and the demo days are reserved for more of for them to showcase a project that they have been working on. And so during the program, it's divided to various tracks, as I mentioned before. So we have e-development, where people can learn about like building their decentralized applications from scratch. We also have like the track of like Eat application that provides a bird's eye view of the various dApps that exist in this space. We also have like the P2P systems track where like students can learn about one of the fundamental building blocks of a blockchain system. And there's also Ethereum 2.0 track where like the students get a look into the research being done for the next phase of the Ethereum progress. And we also have like a slightly more advanced track such as like decentralized finance, where like the students can build a mental model around the future of finance. And then we also have the zero knowledge cryptography track where people can see like how like ZKP can be applied into like your Ethereum applications, and like how to write your circuits and so on and so forth. So we've seen like a really large interest in like in the program so far, and like we have the span of 2 weeks that we open our application for, we have received more than 700 applications from students around the globe. And this just proof our like how important it is for like these resources and like programs to exist, because there's like huge amount of interest right now in like from students around the globe, and we just don't have enough bandwidth to really kind of like accommodate all of this huge interest. And so like this is like while we're also working kind of to work and improving as well. So this is a quick highlight of the things that our students have been working for. Like for instance, right here, Brian is showcasing one of the projects that he have been working during the first week of like the program, which is really amazing. So he is building like some sort of like transaction visualizer here. So in here you can see like in this block you can see like what various transaction exists, and like we have like unique coloring for each transaction. So for instance, like a cyan color is like for OpenSea transactions, and dark blue is for Axie Infinity transaction that have been really popular recently, and so on and so forth. You also have like for instance here, Rhythm is working on like essentially a Dune analytics dashboard for Aave, where he writes SQL queries and like show to the whole community on like how Dune analytics can be used to like actually gather this data and like kind of like visualize the data that exists on the blockchain. And also here, Pei Yuan is also working on like a presentation on Tornado Cash, where he kind of like give a run through of like how Tornado Cash runs under the hood, and like how it is becoming like one of the critical infrastructure for blockchain privacy in the Ethereum space. So right now the other students are working on their own student projects, which is gonna be like wrapped up in like the next few days. So for instance we have like projects such as the Dark Forest DAO, which is a unique DAO to play Dark Forest the game. And if you're not familiar with the Dark Forest, it's a really amazing, like, totally biased here, like unique, like, strategy game. And like, the DAO is like supposedly going to be interoperable with the game, and just like can interact with the game in like a unique way. There's also Zero Cost Patreon, which is a DeFi powered creator subscription platform. There's like decentralized Blackjack and decentralized Kaggle. There's also like a generative NFT art project that use some geospatial location and super fancy. And there's like so many more ideas that is being built by our students right now. So that's a wrap up on the Eat Summer. Now we want to move on to like another project that we have been working on, which is like, Eatspring.com. So if you've talked to me in the past on Twitter, for instance, like, that I will point you like, if you're starting to learn about like blockchain, I'm going to point you to our resource with Eatspring.com. So Eatspring.com is essentially our main hub of like knowledge, or like a main like source of like like knowledge for like people interested in like learning about the Ethereum space. So we have like various like resources on like peer protocols. We have like resources on protocol theory. We have resources on crypto philosophy. We have resources in smart contract development, and so on and so forth. So we just like basically gather this in like a centralized website, such that anyone who wants to learn and anyone who wants like share about the knowledge can find all of this information in like a single place. And we've been seeing a lot of like people using this website, and like we've seen like a huge increase in traffic that makes me personally super excited about this whole like this whole like blockchain education space, because like it just like shows us that there's like huge demand in the market for like this like education programs for like Ethereum and like other decentralized platforms. And like for instance, like our Ethereum development track and like Eatspring have been like widely popular, and we've seen like an increased amount of interest for people who's like trying to learn about smart contracts. And we feel that it is like very useful for you to actually have this like curated resources, so that you don't have to like browse Google for the various fragmented resources that you might not be able to actually connect the dots and like manifest into like a useful knowledge that is actionable. So what's next for us, right? So we are currently working on setting up the task force for students to continue working in this space. So like we are setting up a content task force to work on Eatspring.com. We're also setting up new task force to work on developer tooling, building like resources, like building like like toolings to actually help onboard more people into the space. And we're also like working to set up like local or regional presence in like various university campuses, starting in like some parts of the United States, such as Bay Area and Boston, and slowly expanding to like other parts of the United States, and hopefully to outside of the United States as well. So yeah, I think that wraps up for my talk. Thank you for listening. If you're interested to be updated about all the ETH University stuff, feel free to follow us at Twitter at ethuniversity.com at ETH University. And if you're interested in just like keeping up to date with me or just like talking to me, feel free to follow me on Twitter as well. My handle is at smsunarto. And yeah, that is all. Thank you.